Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
You're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy. Fanboy.
Fanboy.
Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot. I assume Tom.
So, reading this lady's bio, I was intrigued to find out not only who her husband was, but how talented she is on top of everything else. Her recent single, Oh My, has just released. Shani, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you.
Listen, it is a pleasure to talk to you. Your husband is Persian-Armenian artist Andy,
Yes.
who I've listened to my entire life.
That's crazy.
And I
That's
just found out he was your husband.
Surprise.
See, it's a good surprise on my end, but I get to talk to the better half today.
Oh, thank you. We'll make the other half happen too later.
I hope so.
Yes, indeed.
But we'll do it on a happy occasion because, April is not good for his family or mine, especially if people pay attention to the 24th and the why.
Correct.
Congratulations on the new single. It's absolutely fantastic. You end up from Arkansas in LA of all places, because where else are you going to go to make it?
That's right. It's a crazy ride, but that's how it had to be. Yep.
And now I presume you live in Glendale.
I have family in Glendale. By marriage, I have family in Glendale. We actually don't live in Glendale, believe it or not.
It's a very LA thing, so everybody ends up somewhere in the valley.
Indeed. Yeah, we are. That's right.
You're an American performer, but you sing in Farsi, Armenian, Arabic, obviously English. What's it like? Did you learn these languages, or did you just learn to sing in the other languages as well?
I've tried to learn, conversationally, let's say, not grammatically, because that would require some proper schooling, but because I learned phonetically first and memorized. So I basically have Andy's accent. If someone is Armenian or Persian or whatever, I have his accent because I've mimicked him mostly. But I want to know if I'm singing about a girl, that I'm not directing my my lyrics to a male. And I want to know if it's romantic. I want to know if it's aggressive. I want to know basically what I'm doing. So I try to get the translations and at least digest as much of that as I can, so it's coming off a little more authentically. And I've learned enough that I can write. So I've written actually a Persian song that I've released, original. And I collaborate, of course, with the lyricist. There's a great lyricist we work with. Her name is Paxima. But I've been able to kind of absorb enough of the cultures to hopefully hold it together.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job, especially since you are on the soundtrack to American Wrestler, one of my all-time favorite movies.
Oh, nice.
I talked to Ali, the writer and director.
Yes.
I told him that if he had replaced wrestling with soccer, that would have been my cousin's story.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to have those stories told, though, because I've known Ali, actually, the producer of that film, since I first moved to LA. And it's so great to see what he was able to accomplish as well. But he circled back around on that particular film and said, I really want you guys to work on the soundtrack of this. And so that was an original song that was created for the movie. I worked with Jamie Christopherson, who did the score, and we put that song together, Rise, which was quite personal. It was very personal. It took on more than just a character in a movie. As you said, it represented a lot of people, and what people were able to do with their lives and having to start all over again.
It's an immigrant story. Obviously, it's a tragic one, especially post-revolution. But
Yeah.
we're talking about a happier time right now as we get all the background stuff out of the way and talk about your latest single, Oh My. This song is a lot of fun. It's quite enjoyable. It's got that like late 80s soul feel to it that
Yes.
I listened to it 3 times in a row.
Sweet, I love it. Thank you. Well, so the story behind Oh My is I started recording during COVID in 2020. Actually, this room, I recorded all those vocals and everything in here. And that, if we all don't want to flash back to that, but it was a time when we were truly locked up. We didn't remember what freedom felt like. We didn't have the warm fuzzies. It was just a really odd time. And I wanted to connect back to stuff that made me feel really good. And that was my childhood record collection that my parents had. And so my dad played drums at home and I sang, and he had just this incredible music collection. And so that was a blast of the past for me to tap into all of that as a songwriter. And really just arranging those vocals and doing all that stuff was just putting me in a good place mentally. And I didn't know how it would go over later. You know, I didn't know if other people would feel it, but I'm just so happy because that's what I'm hoping for. It's just people say, God, it makes me feel good. And I'm like, done. That's it. It's not about money. It's about, you know, did I accomplish that? Because it made me feel something too.
And what's it like after being a recording artist? And, you know, we got our freedom back in a sense.
Mhm.
You know, California, for people that don't know that aren't in California, California very much went the route of Chicken Little, the sky is falling during the pandemic. Florida very much went the aspect of Tigger from Winnie the Pooh and didn't give any bothers. And people like me wanted somewhere, you
In
know,
the
a
middle.
healthy medium.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. We were quite locked down here. We were for almost a full year. And to the point where, you know, you didn't touch the Amazon delivery guy or the mailman. It was that intense, you know, and looking back on it. So that was what our lifestyle was like. But music and art, I think, and obviously social media, you know, held us all together. And so I was inspired by certain people and what they were doing. And then I'm like, you know, I really need to get off of it and just start doing something constructive, you know, instead of wallowing in all this sadness. And so yeah, I recorded almost an entire album during COVID, and then I just tweaked and tweaked on it. But I had some other things. I had a movie to shoot and stuff, so I had to table all this for a while. So it's great to have it out.
And this is your fourth album, is it not?
It is, yeah.
You know, congratulations, 4 solo albums coming out the gate and actually putting out something positive for a change.
Thanks.
Because we've been doing so much dystopian stuff as of late.
Indeed. And you know, my previous records were, I think, serious, you know, that it's all had a personal track in my life, and the stuff that I needed to get out and talk about and whatever. And I just wanted to feel something. Not that there are quite a few serious tracks on this album, but and actually one that's quite pertinent, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure. And it's the title track of the album. But I just really wanted to mostly connect to a time that, as you said, that sort of 70s, 80s, when music just it made us feel something. It wasn't just a track with some lyrics on it. And no disrespect to other artists, but I come from that world and I understand it. You know, it's like, let's produce a track. All right, throw some beats, you know, throw some lyrics on it. All right, let's think, okay, that's good. Top line, great, done, let's go. But this was like creating a song, you know, based upon like an overall passion.
Now, did you always have a musical background? You know, was your dad a musician as a hobby or as a career? You know,
Yeah.
what was the musical aspect in the home life in art in the
In
Midwest?
Arkansas.
Yeah.
So my dad, yes, my dad played drums, but he could not pursue it full, you know, tilt. He had to take over my grandfather's business. And so he was one of those really supportive parents that didn't discourage me from pursuing music and the arts, because I think he didn't get to do it. So he kind of vicariously lived through me and supported me and inspired me, and again had great taste in music. So I never had to like go totally left field away from what my parents listened to. I actually really absorbed a lot of it. And then moving to LA was like, whoo, mind blowing, because I wasn't exposed to Armenian, Persian, Arabic, Assyrian. I didn't even know the differences. I didn't know the nuances between all of it. You know, you can't just go, oh, that's Middle Eastern music or that's Mediterranean. You know, it's like, no, there's, you know, there's different time signatures here. All of these things matter, you know, and within those time signatures, there's different beats. It's like saying everything in the US is 4/4, but no, we have country, we have hip hop, we have, you know, we have R&B, we have pop, we have rock. It's like, so within each of those cultures, there's multiple genres there. And and I had to kind of absorb which ones I've kind of connected to as well. So it's been a lifetime journey for me to record all of these things and to go on tour and do it live, and play live. I play some percussion now, and who would have thought, you know? I mean, a girl from Arkansas that would like get to that point. But that just goes to show you never know, and you got to be open to letting kind of the universe just bring stuff to you.
Let's go back to 18-year-old you.
Yes.
And then you come to LA, you know, suitcase in a dream, and it's actually worked out for you. And then you go on your first, not national tour, but first international stint. What do you tell your dad, who had to give up the dream in order to take over the family business?
I think, well, first of all, I'm an only child, which helped because my parents were able to kind of lift off and do that. And we're a close family. And so it was the first time I'd actually been away from my parents that long as well. It was this, I actually went out with Andy, I remember, for about 6 weeks to Europe, all over Europe. And that was the longest I had ever been away. So I think my parents were just super, you know, proud really to know that like their kid is making a living off of music, you know. And it's not like I was rolling in dough. I was just able to, like, you know, pursue that craft and get paid for it. And so I think my dad was, you know, super proud and very cool. One little side note, in 2000, what year was it? We did the Greek Theater in Los Angeles several times. I have to go back and see, but I did an opening show, and I brought my dad to play on stage. So my dad was percussionist in my whole set on that particular gig. So he rehearsed with the band. He did everything that all the other musicians did, and he just was like, "I'm not your dad. You treat me like, you know, I want that experience." So that was really cool, and we filmed it and everything, and that was a kind of a full circle deal.
See, you beat me to the next question, because I was going to ask, did you bring dad on stage at some point?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't bring him up just to, like, you know, here, da 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 da. I mean, he came and he did an entire set. He learned all the songs and he played. So, you know, I think that was like really cool. He still talks about it. So.
And
Yeah.
what's that like, you know, your dad learning your songs? It's not the stuff that he introduced you to. It's now going the other way, and you're the adult and he's paying attention to your work.
Yeah, you know, he's obviously he's a fan, but he will tell me when he will tell me when he doesn't like a mix. You know, I always send mixes and stuff I'm working on, to the point where I don't like to send him stuff in development, because I know where it's going, but he doesn't know. It's still in my head, and I'm, you know, and I'm like, I'm not sending it because he's not going to get it. But no, but he has a really good ear, so he will come back and tell me, you know, I think the vocals are muddy, I think the bass is too loud or not loud enough or whatever, and I take those notes seriously, because they're not, you know, just random. But he has, you know, he has really good opinions, and he's excited about this particular album, obviously, because it does circle back to a lot of those early influences that he had too.
Well, it's wonderful that this has come full circle for you. And then you get to go back to Arkansas at some point, having toured the world. You know, I don't like to use the phrase "your eyes are opened," because that is almost insulting Arkansas in and of itself. But you've had a different world experience. What's it like going home after a world tour, or at least a European tour?
You know, it's a funny thing, because I kind of fall right back into the pocket. I was 16 when I left. I was 16. I was a junior in high school, and I mean, when I was there, I was there, meaning like I was a cheerleader, I was in student council, I was, you know, trying to be a good student, I was social, and I did my sort of artistic stuff on the side. And I had a good, you know, friendly life, and a lot of families knew each other, and it was like that. So when I went back, I just sort of fell into that pocket again. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't come back as I'm LA, coming back to see, it's not that at all. In fact, when I go back, I love to go. Our town, my hometown, Hot Springs, Arkansas, has become quite a popular place for not only retirees, but they have a really cool art scene and film festivals going on and all kinds of things. And so I like to just kind of walk the downtown. It's a historical town from the 1940s, and I soak it up. And then it's almost like recharging your phone battery, I like, yeah, I feel whole. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to conquer again, because it really nurtured me. That my childhood was a small town, and I felt safe and I felt nurtured and I felt inspired, ready to go tackle the world, if that makes sense. So I guess in a weird way, going back gives me kind of another little charge.
And now let's take it one step further. You've recently also produced a film called Dark Asset, which is now on Amazon Prime. What's it like to go from, excuse me, musical artist to film producer?
It's crazy. So, I've said it before, when you do music for movies, you're kind of like the last call. You're the last call kind of at the end. So everything's edited and here you go. And I've witnessed things that I thought, wow, if I could have been involved sooner, we could have incorporated some stuff, and like even in the edit, it could have helped inform the edit and a lot of things like that. And I was also a trained actor, so I did acting while I was, pursuing my music too. And I've done stuff. So I've been on sets and all of that. And over time, doing a lot of music videos and doing the work that I do, I started producing, obviously having a kind of production company and doing music. And you get to know a lot of great camera people, great costume people, great makeup, all of the workforce that sort of collectively makes things happen. And it got to a point where I was like, you know what? I think I can do this just by virtue of knowing great people. And so I connected with a few other producer friends of mine, and we just said, let's do this. And it took a lot of time because COVID interrupted our flow, but it's not the first movie I've actually like been on the producing team, but this one I was kind of a lead producer, so I had a huge amount of responsibility. But I got to do the, featured song of the movie. So that was cool, and being in the movie. So it was sort of like getting to tap all of those areas on one project.
And you also do get to star in the film as well.
Yeah. So that's fun. And I always wanted to do kind of a spy movie because I like spy movies. And it's such a huge, departure of who I really am. So this lady that I play she's a boss lady. She's tough and very different from kind of like my daily personality. So that was a lot of fun to get to kind of do that. And I mean, even as a producer, I like, can you just, I'm not really like that hard personality, but this girl, I got to, be that.
All right, I'm going to have to call BS on that. You were a 16-year-old girl that left Arkansas for LA that ends up going on a European tour with her future husband, who's an internationally renowned immigrant to the United States.
True.
I don't think passive is what you truly are.
Maybe
quiet,
awesome.
but not passive.
That's awesome. No, you're right. I should own that, right? No, let's take that back. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to sound like I'm a quiet little, wallflower. No, I think what it is that I try to be as giving as possible in my daily life, to reciprocate and give. And it doesn't matter to me, whether you're rich or famous or any of those things, we're all equal. And, I try to treat everybody the same. So being a producer, I remember going on auditions and it would be like, you're going to meet, when the agents would say, you're meeting producers. And to me, it was like, I'm going to meet the president of the United States. It's just a very scary, daunting sound. And so then for me to be like the producer, it's hilarious to me. It's just like, wow, okay. I know it's an important job, but I'm the same person. I'm still the same person,
Well, you're doing something right because you've had a successful career. It's coming full circle. This is your fourth album. Take us into the title track and the significance of the title itself and why this became the title track of, I believe, 12 songs on the album, correct?
Yes. Okay, well, I have to downshift in my car here. So the album is called The Moon Knows. It's probably the most serious track on the album. However, in listening to it, what I really liked, what I really wanted to accomplish, and I think I like how it turned out, is that if you don't pay attention to the lyrics, you just think that it's just kind of a slick, kind of jazzy, throwbacky kind of feel. But in reality, it's got a very intense message, which was sort of me tackling my Me Too experience, if you will, at a very vulnerable time as an up and coming singer artist in this industry. And I was quiet about it for many, many, many years. Even when the Me Too movement came out, I did not jump on that bandwagon. I just wasn't comfortable. But again, during COVID, you have nothing but time to really reflect on your life and where you've come from and where you hope to go. And that song just sort of came out of me, which was like, I'm not going to call you out. I'm not going to name your name, but I know and you know and the moon knows what happened. And that's enough for me right now, you know? So it's just, I'm going to verbalize my experience. And let's just say that you could deny it all day long, even to your own subconscious, but, you know, there was a watcher and that was the moon in my poetic way. And so, yeah, it was kind of cathartic, as they say, to get that out. And I was a, you know, high profile, powerful person that I experienced something not so great with, but now I feel like I've just, you know, handled it in my own way.
Yeah. You needed to do it the way you thought was right, and you
That's right.
handled it the way you wanted to. It
That's
wasn't
right.
anything out of the ordinary.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
sometimes you don't need to name names. Sometimes what's enough sometimes is the you know and I know.
that's indeed right. And, you know, I kept it quiet because I was underage. I wasn't even 18. And I think more than myself, I wanted to protect my parents because I knew, especially my father, what that would do to him if he knew at that point in time, and maybe prevent me altogether from getting to pursue what I wanted to do, you know, at 17. So it's like, I just thought, okay, this is what this is. It did throw me off for a while, and I wasn't sure if I could handle it, but you know, you go through life and you build up some armor and you go on, you know. The
Well,
industry can be challenging for everyone. I'm not going to say just young girls, for everyone.
and let's put it this way, you know, with you not being of age at the time, you saved your father a prison sentence.
I think I did. I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
I
just kind of said, let's move on from this particular character without saying why, you
yeah.
know.
This is more to protect dad from going to prison than it is from this person's identity. Let's put it
I
that way.
pretty much think that's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. It, like you said, this is a heavy subject to tackle, yet you make it in a, what's the right word I'm looking for? A more upbeat version. And
Yeah.
it has that feel of like, if you're not listening to the lyrics directly, it's an upbeat song. But then when you pay attention to the lyrics, it's that, oh, I've overcome this and I've surpassed who that 17-year-old was.
That's right. That's right. There's a line that it just hit me because Andy, my husband, and I, we live on a hill, the top of a hill, kind of, and I say, I've kind of gone from here to there. I'm not going to do the whole lyric, but I have the hilltop house too, sort of like, to me that was so fancy that he lived on top of a hill and everything. And not that I'm, super fancy or whatever, but it was just a kind of a poetic full circle again for me,
Right.
But I didn't want it to be this dark, sorry, I didn't want it to be this dark, brooding, poor me thing, because as you said, you come out the other side, and when the track starts, I mean, it almost feels kind of sexy and loungy and fun, you know. The first line is "Come on over," he said, you know, which is indeed what he said to me. Come on over to the house. So when it starts, if you're not really full on listening to the lyrics, you might think this is just about a guy inviting a girl to his house, you know, but it just kind of takes you somewhere else.
With a situation like that, how does that affect the start of your relationship with your current husband? You know, well, your husband. I hate
Yeah.
this current
Current.
stuff. That-
I don't plan on
I'm
it
so
being.
used to LA with
I
the whole
know.
current. He's your husband. You've been
Correct.
married
Yeah.
for long enough that this is the
Yeah.
one and done. You
Yep.
know, when you start a
Yep.
new relationship, and especially with somebody like Andy, who's been known internationally for 30 plus years,
Mhm.
who has a personality that can be larger than life from what we see on this side versus the softer side that you see in your life.
Mhm.
How does that wall come down after experiencing something like that?
Well, when we first started working together, actually, here's the funny thing. I met Andy around that same period, believe it or not. So I lived in a condominium complex where some other Iranian exiled famous people happened to be living. That's what actually sucked me into the community. I was invited to be a part of that scene and go to those nightclubs and stuff. And Andy would come and go, and I met him in that circle. And so he, as time went on, he then invited me to kind of do a few things with him here and there. But it wasn't until later he became quite well known with a partner named Kuros, and they were a duo. And so he was off doing that, and I was off doing my stuff. And then when they split and to go solo, he called me and said, "Can you come join my band?" And so it was all very business, you know, very business. And I looked at him as just my kind of employer and you know, my professional colleague, I guess. But we became really good friends, and so we began to talk a lot about our personal lives, and I respected him as someone who was just a little bit older than me that had accomplished more and watched how he managed it. And that also was inspiring to me. And I didn't tell him all my dark secrets. You know, that all came later. I don't have many, but that one, that one. So I think it was just about building a bond and a respect, you know, between us. And we collaborated, and currently collaborate a lot still. And I think he was kind of the mindset of trajectory. For Andy, it's all trajectory forward. You know, we don't have to look back. And so it wasn't like, if I would talk about it, it was like, yeah, but that was then, this is now. Why do you even need to deal with it? But I think for me, there was a time and a place that I just wanted to get that monster out of that alien monster out of my body. Done with this. You know, I'm not going to carry this anymore. Through with it, kind of thing. But there's safety in knowing that you're so protected and loved and cared for, you know, in a marriage and by your family and your friends, that it's like, I'm just going to put that, I want to help someone else. I want to help somebody else to know that this is not going to break you. You just keep on going, you know?
And what was that first baby step? Because we're at our fourth album now with 12 tracks, but there had to be that first baby step of stepping out of the shadows of being a backup vocalist and now putting everything on wax the first go around.
Yeah, you know, so my first album was called Undercurrent, and I really wanted to explore my roots mixed with the Middle Eastern vibe that I had been exposed to. And at that particular time, early 2000, end of 99, we were in this electronic, kind of the beginning of what we now would call EDM music. We were in the beginning stages of that, where you had like this electronic beats mingled with songs. They weren't just like DJ beats in a club. And traveling so much around the world, doing the shows with Andy, I'd be in Paris or I'd be in Germany, and I would hear that stuff. It wasn't in America yet. I would hear that stuff. And so I would be doing my work, but then I would be inspired by all this stuff. And I was like, wow, what if you could juxtapose all of this together, you know? So I just started writing and working, and I think Andy and I have 2 tracks we wrote together from that album. And so we've always done that. We've always, I write stuff for him. Almost everything he does in English, I write. And we just collaborated, and he helped me produce on that first record. Again, you know, it just doesn't hurt having a musician who's your husband at the same time, because you can bounce things off of each other. And again, you know, when I would feel kind of because, you know, still there, women are now really doing great in the music industry, dominating actually, but at that time they were not. And so you still needed those male advocates that were going like this, it's okay, go, you know, go. And he always did that for me. And so it was just about like finding people that really supported what I was doing.
And what's it like now that you've emerged from the cocoon and you're able to push yourself? What would you tell women that didn't, you know, that don't have to hold back the way women when you were coming up had to?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, you know, not to go into politics, because it's not about who wins this presidential election, but we have a woman who could become a president of the United States. That was so far away if you go back 20 some odd years ago, right? So I think the mindset of our culture now is that women can do pretty much anything, you know. Maybe we're not physically equipped to do certain things, but beyond that, I mean, whatever you kind of put your mind to, you can accomplish. And I think it's just, the tough thing is that we're innately nurturing people, and we innately want to, are you okay? Can I get you some water? Can I, like, we will not drink this bottle of water if you need it. That's just, it's that maternal thing we have. And you kind of have to push yourself, retrain yourself, because when you're going for a career, it's not a we thing. It's, I got to do this. I got to do this. And it's tough, because your social life your dating life, your social life, your being a daughter, being a friend, being a whatever, you got to just do you know. And that is I would say to women, that is the toughest part about it, is learning. And I still struggle with it. Trust me. I'm a mom to dogs and horses. I don't have children, but I have dogs and horses. And to me, it's like, I'm more concerned about their well-being sometimes than my own. But in a career like this, you've really got to stay the course and work it. But if you stay true to it, you know, you will see the results.
Shani, you've done some absolutely incredible things career-wise, personal life, been able to move past even personal trauma, that you're able to put out this 12-track album right now. What would you like the audience to get from listening to the album? Because 12 tracks is a lot for today's attention span. Yet besides the title track, is there something, you know, I'm sorry, besides The Moon Knows, is there another song that's deeply personal to you that you're like, if somebody only knew, this is how important it is for me to share with them?
Yeah. Right away I was gonna say, what do I, and then boom, I got it. There's a song I wrote called Don't. And funny enough, this is why, you know, not to get all sort of spiritual and everything, but when people say timing is everything. So I wanted this album to come out, I would say probably beginning of 23, believe it or not. It was mostly mixed and ready. But a few things occurred between 23 and 24. And some of it was in my own personal, professional life. And I wrote that song, Don't, when I thought the album was done. And I wrote that song, which was, you know, basically me doing exactly what you and I were just talking about, which is, don't think I'm that same girl. I'm not that same girl. Or I'm not that girl that you think that maybe I am. So that's not going to work here. And it was, I did not have a conversation with the person. It wasn't confrontational, but it was me poetically putting that out there and sort of like, if you know, you know. If you're that person, you know, I'm probably talking to you. You know what I mean? And so that, it can be used in any kind of way that anybody wants to apply it. It's just, don't take me for granted. Don't think that I'm somebody that you can step on or you can presume you know everything about, or fill in the blank. So yeah, that was a really important song for me. And I think, that's why the album, that's why I didn't put it out. That's why I didn't put it out yet. I was waiting because I had so much responsibility with my film and it was bothering me that the album was sort of done. And then I later went back and did a couple of cool remixes, and I went, okay, that's why we waited, you know? So it's a stronger record. It's got more to say. But I hope that people, you know, I agree with you. We don't have a lot of albums. I grew up with albums. Stevie Wonder's Songs of the Key of Life is one of the most beautiful things on the planet. It's just, you can't duplicate that stuff. I wanted to do that. You know, I wanted to have something that you just listen to and you're like, okay, I think I know who this girl is. I think I know who she is by what she's talking about, or whatever, to some extent. Does that make sense? You know, you're not just listening to one track. I mean, if you hear Oh My and you like Oh My, and I love Oh My, but it doesn't tell you all the things, you know, it's just one message.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, when everything comes, I mean, the album came out not too long ago, and here we are talking about the latest single, Oh My. How exciting is it that, you know, you get to perform these songs for a live audience, and then you see it resonate, because you can't really see past the second row with the lights in your face, but you get to see how it resonates with the people up front and their emotional draw to it.
It's very cool. It's very cool. We did it, we played it live first actually in Washington, D.C., and these people hadn't really heard it. I think I released the album 2 days before, something like that, and I hadn't officially released On My as a single yet, but I was like, this is the song I want to play for you first. And we brought the house lights up. To your point, we brought the house lights up a bit because we wanted to film it. And it was so cool to see people even in the back or up on the, you know, upper deck dancing and just grooving to something that they hadn't heard before. You know, and it was raw. It was raw and it was great. And that, I can't tell you how that really makes people feel, because behind the scenes when you're tinkering on music, you know, you're just relying on your ear and your feel and professionals around you and stuff. But to see people just feel it, like they don't care how many versions of that mix you did, and you did 3 passes on the mastering and whatever, you know, they don't care. It's just, did they get it? And you see people just like rocking to it. And I was like, this is it right here. This is it. So we're cutting a video as we speak, and I'm making sure that is in there, because that was everything. That's the magic that you chase, you know?
Okay, so you're married. From what I hear from some married people, they'll dance in the living room with their spouse.
Yeah.
What is the song from this album that husband and wife are home Friday night in their pajamas that they need to get up and slow dance to?
Ooh. Ooh. Slow dance?
Let's do slow dance, and then let's do one that they groove.
Okay, well, slow dance is Stay, because this song called Stay is quite seductive and sexy, and don't ask me why I wrote it, because I'm already married. So I don't know. It just happened. Maybe it was just tapping backwards. I don't know.
Or you still want to romance your husband, and that's a good thing.
Perhaps. Yeah. Yes, indeed. It started with a feeling. So stay for sure. That's your couple's like go-to, and kind of drink your glass of wine or whatever it is that you do to get you in that mood. And then I would say either Oh My or Get It, a song called Get It, which is like, that's what now you're bouncing around on the furniture and jumping around on, you know, I hope that people will feel that too, you know.
Shani, I'm going to leave you with this. I've never asked a recording artist this before, but I've asked filmmakers this. The album is complete. It's in the can. It's completely recorded. It's released on a Tuesday like every other album. How'd you finally fully let go and go, this I've given to the world, without going, ooh, in track 3, if I had just changed it by half a beat on the percussions, you know, I would just tweak it just some more?
Can I tell you, I still hear those notes myself. If I'm driving in the car and I play a track or I play the album, I still hear that note that I just, oh, I wish I could have changed it. But things happen when you're recording. Like, for example, my engineer that mixed it, Josh Connolly, he's a big guy. He's mixed a lot of stuff, and from Santana to Justin Bieber to Kendrick Lamar, it's all the gamut. But he's hard to nail down. He's in Las Vegas. I'm in LA. I was in Las Vegas a couple times, you know, so it's like I could not, it was just a challenge of scheduling. And there's a certain point where it's like, you have to open up the files and you have to go back to the board and you have to tweak, and it's not a joke. So there's a certain point when I'm like 2 dBs, that hi-hat or that vocal, and you just got to let it go. You just, it sucks, but you got to let it go. And if, you know, it's kind of like, if he's okay with it, I guess it's not horrible. But to me, it's like, but I think every musician, every artist has that. There's no way someone's going to tell you from start to finish that it's perfect. No one's going to ever say that.
I dig it. Where can we find the album for purchase, and where can we find you on social media if we want to connect with you?
Cool. So the Moon knows it's Shani, spelled Shani. A lot of people don't know how I spell my name. Everywhere, all your iTunes, Google Music, wherever you get music. It's everywhere, all over the world. And my social is, I go by my full name, Shani Rigsbee. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram and all that good stuff.
All right. And Shani, bonus question.
Yes.
Since we share a birthday.
No way! Fist bump.
Yeah.
Love that.
Perfect birthday dinner.
Perfect birthday dinner?
Meal. Yeah. What's the meal?
Oh, well, yikes, you got me there. Okay, I love my pasta. I really do. I just love some good pasta, some nice fat bowl of pasta. A good Mediterranean salad. You got the Mediterranean, you got the Armenian background and all that. So you know what I'm talking about that good, you know, that special cheese and some good tomatoes and cucumber and all that kind of stuff. And I love, but see, I like a lot of different things. Like I like my dolma. There's a lot of mixture. So I don't know, that meal might be, if it's something I can call in, it's going to be a lot of different things on that table.
And it comes with a side of Pepto-Bismol.
It does. And some spice with the Pepto-Bismol. Yeah.
I love it. Shani, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a great pleasure chatting with you. We're definitely going to have to get together in person.
Indeed. Love to meet you in person. Thank you so much.